Welcome to Cake on Tuesday, where we spotlight the rule breakers, the underdogs who refuse to listen when everyone said it won't work. I'm Elizabeth Bieniek, and for the next 20 minutes, we're diving into another disruptive innovation story that proves sometimes the craziest ideas change everything. Today's guest is Gregory Russell Benedikt. Gregory is on a mission to live a story worth telling. His recent TEDx talk, How Being Bold Will Change Your Life, has over 600,000 YouTube views in less than a year, putting him in the top 1% of TEDx talks. As an ICF certified coach, he works with corporate professionals who are successful but feel trapped, asking themselves, is this it? Gregory focuses on facing fears and taking bold action, not one to tell others do what I say, not what I do. His philosophy is live it first, then help others through learned experience. Gregory, welcome to the show.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm really excited to dive in here, and there's a lot of things I'd love to get into in your story and your background. But can you first start off just by telling the audience here, what really gets you excited every morning? What sets your soul on fire about what you do?
Yes, I love that question. And specifically, I love the language sets your soul on fire, because that has been so much of my journey. It's helping both myself first and then others find what lights their soul on fire. And all of my work has been informed by a quote. A lot of people listening to this podcast have probably heard it. It's by Howard Thurman. And he says, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And that to me lights my soul on fire. And that's at the essence, at the core of what I do, is helping people figure out how to become more alive. Because as you know, a lot of people are going through life right now on autopilot, not very alive.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about boldness a little bit, because this is kind of your signature thing. You've got this YouTube out there that's just really taken off. Tell us a little bit about, I want people after the show to go check out the YouTube. It's really fun. I watched it. But tell us a little bit about what prompted you to become bold. You're tapping into this universal truth that fortune favors the bold. So how did that come alive in your own life, and what prompted you to become bold?
I've always loved that quote, fortune favors the bold, because any time that I seem to take bold action, that I seem to get out of my comfort zone, the universe would reward me. Like something good would happen within a few moments, within a few hours. And I'm a very curious person. I love testing things and having these little tiny experiments. And so I started to notice, okay, this seems to be working, but let's turn up the dial a bit on this. And so I thought to myself, fortune favors the bold. I wrote it out and I was like, okay, we can't control what happens to us in life, but we can control how bold we are being. And I had this hypothesis that if we increase the boldness in our lives, then maybe, just maybe, our fortune or what happens to us will increase. And I tried it one huge time and it went really well. And it went so well that I was like, okay, now I need to take a little more rigorous approach to this. I can't just go around saying, oh, fortune favors the bold. If it worked for me once, let me go try this 100 different times. And so the one big bold time that it worked for the first time was how I met my girlfriend. And then after that, I embarked on a 100-day challenge throughout San Diego of taking bold action and trying to get rejected by strangers in hilarious ways.
I feel like this is a YouTube series you should be starting here. How to get rejected by strangers.
It's quite easy. You literally just go up and ask something crazy. And so one of my favorite ones, I'll just share this little story. One of my favorite ones, on day 4 of these 100 days, I knocked on a stranger's door and I put my best smile on and I asked a stranger, I literally knocked on his door and I said, hey, my name's Gregory and I was wondering, could I cannonball in your swimming pool? And I was literally holding a beach towel, wearing swim shorts, and the craziest thing happened, which is he said yes. That completely changed both the 100-day journey, but also my life. It showed me that strangers aren't these big, bad, scary people we need to be afraid of. They're humans just like us. And obviously, there's a lot of times where talking to a stranger might be dangerous. I'll put that caveat here. But for the most part, we are all humans trying to do our best, trying to show up as kind and loving. And I had so many beautiful micro connections with people across this 100-day journey because I'd ask them something funny. They'd say yes or they'd say no. And we would have this shared story that we were creating together.
Okay, I want to address a little bit of the elephant in the room here of you are obviously younger than me and much younger than a lot of my audience as well. Yet you have made a very successful career helping executives, I'm sure many of them older than you, make a pivot in their life and confront something major. And I know we had a chance to talk before the podcast and you mentioned that you're really focused on not telling people, "Oh, do this thing." It's a, "Hey, I did this thing in my life and this is how this worked." Can you talk a little bit about how it's not necessarily the years of experience, it's the experience in your years and how that has really panned out for you?
Yeah, so I always tell people two things. One, I am a very old soul. I might not look it, but I'm at least 95 at heart. And two, I had two full-blown existential life crises by the time I was 25. So I
Overachiever, right there,
took
overachiever.
took a lot of life experience and condensed it into a short period of time and really had that rock bottom moment early of what am I doing? I worked in finance. I was in private equity. I thought I had my dream job. I was successful on paper, but I was so empty on the inside. And that caused me to take a look at my life and realize I'm not happy. This isn't what I would be proud of if I get to the end of my life and nothing changes. And it was right around that time that I was kind of coming face to face with that I learned about the number one regret of the dying. This is, I wish I would have had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expect of me. And this comes from a ton of research on palliative care and this nurse, Bronnie Ware, who worked with patients at the end of life. That was the number one thing that people regretted. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do and how I help people. It's not me saying, hey, change your life in this specific way, or you should go do this thing. How I work with people and what I do as an ICF certified coach is I sit with people and I help them look around. I hold the lantern, so to speak, so that they can take a look at their life if they are unhappy, if they are unfulfilled, and we can peel back the layers together to figure out what is it that makes you come alive? What do you love? What would you do if money didn't exist? If you could find kind of the perfect way to live and you weren't worried about what your coworkers thought of you or your boss or maybe your parents or some person from your past who still has control over your life somehow. That is why it doesn't matter that I'm much younger. I'm younger than nearly all of my clients because I'm helping them see things that they can't see. I'm reflecting back. I'm holding a mirror. And then I get to share, hey, I did this fun thing. That might be cool for you. What do you think? So I have a lot of lived, grounded experience to go off of, but ultimately it's me partnering with them as a client to figure out what's next. And I'm completely objective. I've just gotten pretty good at peeling back the layers and holding space for people to do that deep work.
So you didn't know this about me, but I was an English major before I went into business and technology. And I immediately thought of the Henry David Thoreau quote of the massive men lead lives of quiet desperation. Now, he wrote that in the mid 1800s, and here we are almost 100 years later. And I feel like that is very fitting still today. Yet some things have changed, of course. What do you feel is that quiet desperation that is plaguing the mass of people today?
So many of us, myself included for a long time, we feel this pressure to live our lives in a certain way because, especially in America, society tells you, do this, do this, do that, and then you'll be happy, and then you'll be filled. You know, go to college, get a good education, go to a top school, work for a great company. Maybe it's a consulting firm. Maybe you go straight into private equity. And as you move up the ranks and you get the fancy job title and you buy the car and then the house, we're told that these things will bring us what we want, which ultimately I think is happiness. What we're not told is that underneath happiness is a feeling. It's not a permanent state. The things that are more lasting are things like meaning, fulfillment. How I talk about it is a sense of aliveness. Like, do you want to get out of bed on a Monday morning? I'm sure you were excited to get up today. And also,
I'm always excited to get up. It's when I get to talk about cake on Tuesday.
yeah, that to me is the kind of the malaise that is happening is a lot of people are disconnected from what they really want and how they would actually live their life if there weren't other expectations and societal pressure. And it's a very privileged place to talk about this with everything that's going on in the world. But figuring out what it is that you actually are passionate about and how you can design your life around that is an unreasonable well of energy and enthusiasm. And that is what I've learned from working with lots of people, and why I couldn't possibly tell people what to do. Because I have one client who, let's say they love raising cattle and they want to buy some land and raise cows. And I have another client who loves the corporate world and wants to keep climbing the ladder. It ultimately is what lights them up that we focus on. And so I'm kind of going away from the question, but that to me seems like the issue that a lot of us are facing is we've gone off track. We're living a life that's based on other people's expectations. We're not living our own story worth telling. And that's why I always come back to the story worth telling language. It's not the story that's going to be sexy on Instagram or that you can go, brag about and tell people from an egoic sense. It's what is the story that you would be so grateful and happy reminiscing on at the end of your life, when you might be surrounded by loved ones, but ultimately the end of life adventure is a one-person ride. You're going out alone. And as you reflect on your life, will you feel like you played all out and you lived up to your own expectations?
Yeah. I feel like we're going at the same question from different angles. You're taking it from a coaching perspective. This is really gets down to the heart of why I like podcasting. What I love about it is the fact of I get to talk to people who are so passionate about what they do. Not only do they do it, they're so excited to talk to other people about what they do. They want a platform to talk to as many people as possible about what they do. And passion breeds passion. I think when you talk to people who are excited about something, I personally get energized by what other people are excited about. So if you're so passionate about something, I'm like, cool, that's exciting. Even if it's, collecting bugs and something I might not do normally. If you're excited about it, that's exciting to me. So I feel like you are approaching the same question, humanity question, I guess, from a different angle and different approach. So I'm curious about that turning point for you, because your background is finance, right? You were in a totally different field. You talked a little bit about it, of tapping into that understanding of boldness creates a universal response. But what about before that, when you were in finance? What first raised that challenge of, hey, something needs to change for me?
Yeah, it was feeling really disconnected. So I started to feel like what I was doing for work wasn't very meaningful. I felt like I wasn't having a positive impact in the world. And I started to learn more about myself and realize how much I loved people. I was both in love with people and what they had to say and how they thought, and also so incredibly curious. Like you mentioned, one of the best things I can ever be a part of is talking with someone about something they're passionate about. So what it looked like before was just starting to feel disconnected. My life was lacking purpose. And I started to think, okay, this is only going to get harder to make a change. I was 25 when I actually quit my job.
If I waited another midlife crisis early.
I did. Quarter life crisis. It was only going to get harder with kids, a mortgage. Down the road, I have more years in finance. Now maybe there's sunk cost fallacy. And so it was one of the rare moments in my life where I felt like I was able to pierce the veil and see, okay, if I don't do something now, things are going to get much worse. And I'm going to blink and I'm going to wake up in 50 years realizing that somewhere, I probably won't even remember the exact moment, but I just settled for a life that didn't excite me. And that, to me, that taps into the Thoreau quote you shared. It's making the choice between settling and kind of accepting how things are, or using some courage, taking some bold action to shake things up and really go for it. And it brings in another quote I'm thinking about. It's Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech. He talks about how it's not the critic who counts, it's the person who's actually in the arena. Their face is marred with blood and sweat and dust, and they're going for it. And I feel like that's what we really bonded over. Failure doesn't exist. It's this concept. And to me, one of the most important things in life is, do you have the courage to try? Do you have the courage to go for it? Because we only have one shot at this thing called life. And I think we need to try and live it on the most fun, playful, loving, kind terms we can. And when I was in finance, taking it back to the question, I was none of those. I was losing a lot of the parts of me that I loved, the kindness, the patience, the ability to connect with others. And I recorded a podcast for 5.5 years. It's no longer live, but seeing who I was on episode number 1, right after I quit my job in finance, to who I was and how I sounded on episode like 240, following my passion and figuring out what I wanted to do with my life literally changed me. It changed my body. It changed my voice. my eyes started changing colors a little bit. Like, I'm getting chills talking about this, but it's crazy what coming alive will do to you.
There you have it, folks. Podcasting is changing the world one conversation at a time. That's what I believe. So I want to ask a hard question about when you're working with clients, you're asking them to confront something that's really scary. And it's also something that usually doesn't happen overnight. You have people that might have a near-death experience and they're like, oh, all right, I got to get my stuff together. And they have that sort of come to Jesus moment and realize, let's make a change. But for a lot of us, we become trapped in our own success. I think it's very easy to get a name in a certain field, get a certain title, a certain whatever, and you get known as, oh, you're this. And it's really hard and scary to leave that or to even raise the question of, yeah, I might be that, but I'm not happy being that. I want, is this it? The question that you have in your profile, is this it? What do you find is really the turning point for a lot of your clients that make them open to this type of coaching to say, I mean, I imagine in some cases there is a major upheaval that happens in their life, but for a lot of people, it's probably not. It's just hey, where I ended up is not really where I set out to go. What next? So what is that kind of driving force for a lot of them?
It is different for each person, but I can kind of speak to some of the themes. One is hitting a big milestone birthday and realizing, oh, wow, I thought I would be further along or different. Things would feel better at this point.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 40 or 50 or 60.
Sure.
So it's almost like a midlife crisis moment. One of my clients says that I should change my bio to midlife crisis consultant because she mentioned she's like, the work we're doing right now is literally preventing my midlife crisis. Thank you. So a big milestone birthday. Others, I work with a lot of millennials that are kind of late 30s, early 40s. And there's this big thing going on called the Great Millennial Career Crisis, where a lot of millennials are waking up to kind of the American dream that they were sold no longer exists. It's no longer I'm just going to stay with one company for 50 years and work my way up and it's going to be great. There's so much going on in the world and layoffs and for whatever multitude of reasons, that kind of American dream isn't there anymore. And they're starting to wake up to that. And so a lot of people either get laid off or they survive a layoff and they're feeling guilty, or they don't get laid off, but they want to get laid off because they're so burnt out and just getting worked to the bone. I mean, the amount of clients I've worked with who want to get laid off is interesting. So big milestone birthday, waking up to zeitgeist that's going on right now of the Great Millennial Career Crisis. And then I'd say the third one is just a personal awakening. And I use the word awakening loosely because it can be kind of woo-woo, but it is starting to notice what I said earlier of this isn't what I thought it would be. I checked all the boxes that I was supposed to do to be happy and fulfilled. And I now have kids and I've done all the things, but I feel like there's something missing. And that's the whole, is this it? Those three words give me the chills every time I say them because it is the most scary and vulnerable question you can ask yourself. It's not a fun, sexy question. Oh, is this it? It's literally late at night. You're exhausted. You're tired. You have been online for too many weeks, constantly in communication for your job. And you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot see myself doing this for the next 5 to 10 years. I can't even see myself making it to December. Is this it? Is this all my life is really supposed to be?
Right. Okay, one more question before I want to get to. Let's see if we can bring us up a notch here. You talk about voluntarily seeking discomfort. Last year I read The Comfort Crisis, that book, which I think was fantastic.
So
it's
good.
Very timely. Exactly. So again, my head immediately went there. But can you talk a little bit about voluntarily seeking discomfort? And I'm sure this ties into the bold action. What does that mean to you?
So 2 things I want to say. The first is I want to share that I think I got it a little bit wrong with bold action. Bold action is so useful.
It's bold to admit that, by the way.
It is the best tool I've ever found to shake things up, to get out of a rut, to make some magic happen in your life. But it's not the end all be all. It's not this panacea where if you start taking bold action, everything is fixed. It is a tool. It is a very useful tool, but taking bold action and seeking discomfort, which is underneath that, it's very emotionally and energetically expensive. And so you can't use it all the time. Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself out. And if you are taking bold action or seeking discomfort just for the sake of seeking discomfort, you're going to start asking, okay, why am I doing this? Again, coming back to it, taking so much time, it being a lot. But so I just want to get that out there. I'm constantly updating and evolving my views. But the piece that we're talking about, getting out of your comfort zone, is so beneficial. It is the fastest way to grow, to meet new people, to challenge yourself, to overcome your fears. And the reason why you want to do it voluntarily is because there are going to be many times in your life where you are faced with involuntary discomfort. And I'm really big on this idea of prepping for the storm, becoming the type of person who has voluntarily, and hopefully had some fun doing so, put yourself in really uncomfortable situations so that you know you can handle it when you don't have a choice. And it's incredibly effective for your work life. I remember talking to my friend who was training for an Ironman, and he was like, dude, I've already biked 50 miles and swam 11 miles today, whatever it was. This person yelling at me today is not the hardest thing I've done. So
right.
Seeking voluntary discomfort is a really good way to minimize the other problems in your life and make the rest of your life feel easier. And then it's just smart life prep to prepare yourself for being able to handle the storm when it comes.
Now, that is a good inspiring note to wrap on. Gregory, where can people find out more about you, your company, your work, and check out your TED Talk?
My website is gregoryrussellbenedikt.com. My TEDx talk is How Being Bold Will Change Your Life. You can find that on YouTube. It's also on my website. And by the time this goes out, I think I will be done with my 3-month social media detox. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Gregory Russell Benedikt, and I would love to connect.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Gregory.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing what you do. I love that you talk to people about what they're passionate about. The world needs that.
Absolutely. We can agree on that 100%. Thanks for joining another Cake on Tuesday celebration of beautiful disruption. Please share it, review it, and find more innovative stories at podcast.cakeontuesday.com. I'm Elizabeth Bienik. Be bold, stay curious. Now go have some cake.